Hey y'all, it's Nikki. I have to tell you about Tecovas boots. I finally have a pair and they're handmade, high quality, stylish, and comfortable. I even got them customized with leather stamping. The folks at Tecovas will help you find just the right pair. So swing by for yours at the Tecovas flagship on South Congress or their store at the Domain. Plus, good news, they just opened a new store in Georgetown at 709 Main Street for those of y'all that live a little further north. So come shop with me at Tecovas. That's TECOVAS.com. Don't go gently, y'all. Today on CityCast Austin, it's the Friday News Roundup. I'm here today with Claudia Yoli Ferla, the Executive Director of Move Texas, and our Executive Producer, Eva Ruth Moravec. And we are going to talk about ACL, which is finally over, a plan to change Congress Avenue into a pedestrian plaza, and we are talking early voting, which starts next week. CityCast Austin is brought to you by our exclusive launch sponsor, Tecovas. It's Friday, October 18th. I'm Nikki Devon, and this is what Austin's talking about. Hey, Claudia. Hey, Eva Ruth.
Hey, Nikki.
Hello. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Thank God.
Claudia, thank you so much for being here with us. I'm super excited. I'm going to dive right in. We are finally on the other side of ACL. Austin City Limits Music Festival, it seems to get bigger and bigger every year. ACL says that it sells around 450,000 tickets every year, and that's combined for both weekends. I have so many questions, but with all of those people, sometimes it doesn't feel safe to me. So it's been the past 2 weekends. It takes over Barton Springs and all throughout Austin. Lots of people, lots of musicians. If you do not know what ACL is, I don't know what to tell you.
You must have been out of town for the past 2 weekends.
You must have been out of town.
I wish I was out of town for the last 2 weekends.
Y'all, it takes over. And so, best festival moments off top, Chaperone. Just off top.
Yes.
Chaperone's crowd, the pictures, y'all. Eva Ruth, you were in it.
I was there weekend one and kind of accidentally a little closer than I was expecting just because we saw people starting to go to her early. And it was like, oh, crap. We had planned on bouncing around and, catching a little bit of here and there. And it was like, oh, no, everybody's going to Chapel Row and stage. We should just do that. And so we were a little close and it got a little, honestly, what you're saying is right. Like the crowd scariness, there was this guy, a photographer and a cherry picker who was taking pictures of the crowd. And I remember seeing him being like, oh, wow, it must look something up there. I don't know how it looks, but it must be something if he's up there taking pictures. And then you would see the pan of the crowd on the big screen. It was like, oh my gosh.
No, thank you.
Yeah, it was a lot. I mean, I think she put on an awesome show first weekend. I think she did the second weekend too, but it was scary, honestly, leaving that stage. It felt like 100,000 people leaving all at once. And with all the dust and you have no water and everybody's, I don't know, it got a little panicky. I'm not going to lie. But it was fun.
Claudia, did you go this year?
I did not attend this year. In fact, I've been in Austin for almost 7 years. And even before living in Austin, every year, literally, I buy a ticket for ACL and every single year I resell it at the same price in which I bought it for.
Okay.
Nice.
The crowd and how bigger this festival gets every year. And I do think, I want to shout out Austin City Council and also the festival organizers, right? Because so much planning and resources and safety, right? All of that goes into consideration when they're planning for such a big event. But I also want to talk about the fact that we live in a state like Texas where we don't have good gun safety legislation, right? And so for me, very personally, I avoid large crowds because of that precise reason.
Yeah.
I wish I would have attended. I think Chapel Row, and I'm the executive director of a youth civic engagement organization in Texas. And so I've learned very quickly who Chapel Row is.
Mm-hmm.
But my very millennial heart was like really only interested if I were to have attended to actually see Blink 182. I grew up with Blink 182, but yeah, did not attend this year, but did have to deal with the awful, awful, terrible traffic.
Yeah, it took over as it always does. It's a lot. Other standout, Willie Nelson came out with Chris Stapleton and Orville Peck, joining Peck in the gay cowboy anthem that's called Cowboys Are Frequently Secretly Fond of Each Other. In case y'all didn't know, shout out.
I did not.
I did.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, I wish I had seen that.
He's such a Texas hero. I love that man.
Yeah. We love him. Dua Lipa got a Texas Longhorn jersey with a Don's Depot patch. West 22nd became the first band of current UT students to perform at ACL. Brittany Davis on the Tito stage. Jungle, specifically, y'all, shout out to Jungle. I went the second week, and your girl is a little old and a little older, and I just can't thug it out like I used to. I did venture out to see Jungle, y'all. It was so good. Seriously, it was so funny because my partner kept looking at me going, "It sounds just like the record. It sounds just like the
I love that.
Like, it was so good." And it was one of those like super Austin moments where we're a little further back and everybody is just dancing because Jungle is so dancey. So we're just surrounded by people that are just like dancing in their own world and having fun and just like couples dancing together. It was really, really special. It's moments like that that make me be like, all right, I get it. Fine, fine. And then to your point, the first night, Saturday, whatever day it was that Blink 182 played, we were leaving to try to get out before the Blink 182 crowd. And as we were walking to our car, we look up and see fireworks. I'm like, of course Blink 182 has fireworks.
Love it.
And we're missing it. We're missing fireworks.
It's so fun when you hear, and sometimes you'll be like just there, right? And you hear a lyric and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
That's the song they're playing. Like, I have to now go see that band. That happened with me with Krungben, where I was like, oh my God, it's like the radio is playing. I got to go see them.
And Leon Bridges was so good. Dua Lipa was good. I mean, it was a solid lineup, I think. But like, to your point, y'all, that crowd, I remember being the person that would be in the thick of it. I remember being that person.
Yep.
I remember like going early, getting as close to the stage as possible, staking out my spot. But now it's like every time I see the crowd, my heart skips just a little skip. And I'm like, I need to find the closest bench or
I know.
like
an
shady,
exit.
Grassy senior area. I don't know. I was just overwhelmed.
I think from an outside perspective of somebody who didn't attend or hasn't attended in the few recent years, it's still pretty cool though to be like in Austin during ACL minus the traffic. I think it's so good for like our local business, right? We have like the Keep Austin Weird motto in the city, which is really like supporting our small businesses and that are here. And then as a single lady, I love to be on the apps during ACL weekend because we're seeing all of the people visiting our city. And it's really cool to make connections and to really feel, I think often the headlines that come out of not only the city, but the state can be often really grim, and to really have an opportunity to show people like, this is Texas. Texas is a hot state.
It really is.
It's a hot state. And so I think I feel really prideful, right? Like,
yeah,
really proud of us being able to host something this cool.
I do too.
I had a lot of really great conversations with people that aren't from here. People that are just like, do you live here? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, first question is always, how do you deal with this heat? And I'm like, baby, everything is hotter in Texas. You just got to take some of them clothes off.
That's right. As most people at the festival were doing.
Wear fewer clothing, and you gotta lean into it. You're going to sweat. You just got to lean into it. But I I had great conversations with people that are like, oh, this is my first year, or I come every single year. I would never miss it. I met
Yeah.
someone from Denmark
Damn.
that came, yeah, specifically for ACL from Denmark.
That's dedication.
I mean, it's wild. So, is there anyone that you guys, because first of all, it gets more and more expensive. We have to talk about that. It gets
Yes.
more and more expensive. ACL is not as accessible as it used to be.
And it's harder, like you're saying, the older you get, the harder it is to partake in it. So it's like, who are they expecting to pay for these tickets?
Yeah.
Listen, I have reached that point in my life where if it's not VIP, I can't go. And and it's just like I've been very, very lucky enough to be able to go, but I can't imagine not having that reprieve of being able to go and sit down in the shade, air-conditioned bathrooms, just like taking a load off.
Yep.
And, when I'm coughing up brown dust 2 days later, I ask myself if it was worth it. And I feel like it was. I have no regrets.
Yeah.
I have no regrets.
Yeah. A week and a half out, I can say now that I'm glad I went.
Yeah.
I am still hacking stuff up because I don't take good care of myself, and one thing led to another. And
Yeah.
but it's a lot. I'm glad it only happens like once a year here, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna, rally, do this weekend, and then
I'm moving on.
try to live my life. However, I did wish I had gone the second weekend so I could have that Monday off, because I think that would have been very nice.
So here's what I really want to know is there anybody ideally that you would like to see next year? If you see their name, you're like, I'm going. Period. What would that name have to be to make you just be like, I'm not missing it?
I think I have a list of names. I love música en español, urbano music. And so I would love to see a Shakira Batty out on the stage. Like, imagine the crowds. I don't know if like we could realistically like host that. But Shakira, she just dropped like a really awesome song for the single ladies again, a few weeks ago. I'm a big fan of Karol G. I think that would be also like, and I believe she's actually already been to ACL, if I'm not wrong, a couple of years ago. Might be wrong, but would totally like be like, excuse me, get out of my way. And I'm buying, I'm not reselling. I'd love to see more diversity too, right? In the representation also of Latino artists on the stage. But those would be my top two.
Love it. Eva Ruth, what about you?
Okay, mine would be a return. I mean, somebody mentioned recently that Janelle Monáe was their favorite ACL show, and I'm going to have to second that. I would love to see her back. Or even, I think that she owned that stage. She's so creative, the costumes, the dancing.
Yeah.
It's more than just music, and it's so fun to see her perform live. So I would love to see that again.
So I have this habit of, and this people are going to probably really, really talk smack about me. I have this habit of like every year when I have a bad time, or if I have a bad time at ACL, I'm like, you know what? Never coming back again. Somebody would have to be resurrected from the dead. And then I would like every year I pick a person like James Brown would have to come back, or like Aretha Franklin would have to come back. And this is just this thing that I do in my weird brain every year. And this year we were sitting in VIP, and I think the band was called Carino Leone. It was a really, really, really good band. And they were doing covers, they were doing all kinds of stuff. They were having a great time. And they were really good. And Nicole was like, hey, babe, think about if Selena was still with us.
Stop it.
Think about the crowd. And I was like, oh my, I got chills. My face got really hot. And then the people next to us was like, did you say Selena?
Y'all started the rumor. She's coming next year.
This is my resurrection guest of this year. Man, let me tell you something.
Yes.
But for the living artists, I'd say Erykah Badu. We're going to keep it simple.
Yes. I mean, I think like this year, it did seem like the year of the pop girly, that like these women are just really like taking over the stage in these cool, awesome, unique ways. So yeah, thinking about Selena on a stage would be incredible. Erykah Badu, I would take any day.
That was one of my favorite ones, Erykah Badu. And the funny thing is that I like the program. I like that they're trying to do a little bit of old school, a little bit of new school. The city is changing. The city is
Mm-hmm.
younger. You know what I mean? Like the city is hot and single and in these streets. Like having Chapel Roan was brilliant. Now, speaking of ways that the city is changing.
Hello.
Trying to segue. So Austin leaders are reimagining Congress Avenue as a pedestrian plaza. So this week they brought out the Congress Avenue Urban Design Initiative. It was proposed. It's a full revamp of Congress Avenue between Riverside Drive and 11th Street to the tune of about an estimated $130 million. The initial phase for this project work is anticipated to cost only $22 million. And the funding from that is courtesy of the city's 2020 Active Transportation and Safety Bond. The final plan should be expected in early 2025. So their idea is that they're trying to revitalize the street and turn it back into a main street.
Interesting.
Yeah, and the first phase centers on improvements between Cesar Chavez and 11th Street. Open up additional space for people to walk and dine and shop and other street life. They're going to upgrade the physical protection of the bikeway and transform the blocks between 7th and 11th into straight up just a green space with pedestrians. That's it.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And you'll be able to, the vehicular access along Congress Avenue would terminate just north of 7th Street, but east-west traffic will still work. You could still be able to go east-west. Yeah.
Oh.
So 94 less parking spaces, but they will allow you, they have an online open house now through November 24th where you can make your opinion known about this. And at this time, they haven't figured out the segment between Riverside and Cesar Chavez yet. They don't know what they're going to do with that.
Okay.
But they are proposing a straight up, walkable district. So, immediate response. How y'all feeling about it?
At Move Texas, we support walkable communities. We know that so many young people give so much of a fuck around climate justice that I could see this being also a really cool initiative in the lens of really building more sustainable futures for our communities. But I also, have this other hat as a taxpayer where I'm thinking I have questions about how is this going to be funded, the impact on the everyday taxpayers, where else are we pulling from our budget? Hope that it's not coming from the budget that goes back into education and community and businesses, right? But I think that what's really, really important for any young person or any voter in our community is just that ensuring that city council has that transparency in the process, because I think that's what creates a functioning democracy locally. But I think also from another standpoint, the legislative session happens every other year at the Capitol for 140 days, unless the governor calls a special session, which he often does. And sometimes the thing that we have a challenge with is even access to the Capitol, right? People from a parking standpoint, from even not knowing where the heck to even start the process of how do I come and drop a testimony card or come and testify in front of a hearing when a bill is moving through the legislature. So I think it'd be a really cool part of the conversation to talk about how that impacts, a person's ability to be more involved in what's happening inside that building. Eva or Nikki, what are your thoughts?
I'm like you. I got questions. I have so many questions. And they, to your point, they cited the fact, the success of the Capitol Mall on the other side. They were like, oh, well, the Capitol Mall on the other side is doing so good and it was so well received. Why don't we extend it? And I love a walkable district. But at the end of the day, we do not have the downtown infrastructure to be closing down streets, especially not a major thoroughfare.
No.
Where is that traffic going to go? We're not getting any fewer people.
Yeah.
That's going to use that street. What's your plan for our infrastructure?
Yeah, I have questions, Nikki. I'm right there with you.
I don't know how you measure the success of the plaza on the other side. Yes, people use it and know they're not driving there anymore, but what are they supposed to be doing that's successful? You know what I mean? I think, yes, you're exactly right. Nikki, that our culture, like we're trying to make this a walkable thing, but Austin is not walkable. We take cars everywhere. We don't have any public transportation. If there was like maybe if they were building like a train stop right there at the Capitol instead, like in part of that process. Now that would be cool, right? Like, because then you're allowing people to get down there. You're taking away the need for them to be in their separate vehicle. How can you expect people to enjoy that space if you take away their parking?
Well, and also, I'm trying to figure out the first phase they're using that, the 2020 Active Transportation and Safety Bond money. But what else could we be doing with that money? And then to your point, Claudia, where the rest of it going to come from?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They admitted in both of the articles that I saw that they're like, we don't know. We don't know. We don't know where we're going to get it from. But we estimate it's going to be.
We'll find it.
Yeah, it's like,
don't worry.
I don't feel good about that. I don't feel good about that. Like, we going to figure it out.
I wonder if they're thinking like because it's tying into the state capital that there's also some state money involved. But yeah, it does seem a little like, oh, wow.
That's a thought, Eva. Maybe that will be a bill that's up for discourse in the next.
Because lawmakers just really love Austin and they love to give Austin just extra stuff as much as they can.
Yeah. Oh my God.
But also, I mean, listen, any reason the state could possibly have to be up in our business. So like maybe they should start small. Maybe instead of trying to do 4 blocks at a time, maybe you just start from like, I don't know, 10th to the Capitol.
Yes.
And see how it works.
I agree.
See what happens. Slow down a little bit.
Do a pilot.
Do a pilot. You know what I mean? Like
a pilot plaza.
Since we're talking about the Capitol, we should probably be talking about what's really, really going on next week.
Oh, wow. What else happened?
So early voting starts on Monday.
Amazing.
And it's so convenient. You can go anywhere in Travis County and you can find all the locations on the elections department website. They also have a super handy map and waiting times and all that good stuff. Our election day ballots this year are going to be long.
So I have good news, Nikki and Eva. So Move Texas actually has a youth civic center one-stop shop. And so if listeners go to movetexas.org/vote, it is literally your one-stop shop for everything election related. This is a place where you can check if you're registered to vote. It's a place where you're going to be able to also research your ballot, right? Know what's on your ballot beforehand so that nothing catches you off guard. I think being an informed voter is part of the process. It's a place where you're going to be able to make a plan. Right. And you're going to decide, do I want to vote early, which is highly encouraged, or do you want to vote on election day? And what is the best polling location for you? Right. We've also had the closure of a lot of different polling sites across the community. And so every election changes. But I want to talk specifically about why folks and why we encourage as an organization, particularly young voters, to vote early. Right. It allows us to save time and avoid long lines. Right. We want to make sure that we don't let life or last minute surprises get on the way. I've heard so many horror stories. And so really important dates for folks to know is that early voting runs from October the 21st, which is literally next Monday, until November 1st. And then we'll have an opportunity to make our voices heard again on election day on November 5th. I myself, I'll be really honest, I cannot wait until it's done, until elections are finally behind us, because it's been such a year where that polarization between the political parties has been so upfront. Where I think we're all ready to put this chapter behind us, but making sure, right, that in that process, we are voting with our values and with our freedoms in mind.
Since you work specifically with young voters, I know Nikki's voted for a very long time. I've voted for a very long time. There's no question, right? And we're even going to early vote because we don't want to mess around with the lines. We want VIP status at ACL. Come on, we're early voting. So, what are you do young people early vote? Do they vote? How engaged are they, I guess, in this election season?
I love this topic of discussion because I think that there's a lot of misconceptions, number one, about our state. And then number two, also about young voters, not just in Texas, but young voters across the country, right? And the reality is that if you look at the data from the most recent election cycles, it has been young voters who have delivered wins on the issues that young people care most about. Texas is actually the second youngest state in the country. Every single year, one out of every 3 eligible voters in the state is actually somebody who's under the age of 30. That is huge. Like that is a huge electoral power that this generation has if they show up and vote, which they have, and in record numbers in recent years. Texas is also a state that is rapidly growing in terms of young people of color, right? Every single year, 270,000 young people of color turn 18. Move Texas started as a student chapter organization 10 years ago, has become literally the largest youth civic engagement organization in Texas with over 20 chapters across the state. And the thing that we often hear is that young people get involved in their democracy not because they're like, oh my God, yeah, I want to go vote for that one white dude, but they get involved because they really are in tune with the issues that they most care about. They are issue first voters. And some of the issues that they care about and that I believe are going to be the values that they bring out to the polls in November include voting for the freedom to choose if and when we want to have a family. Right? We know that this is a top issue. Abortion, access to a safe and legal abortion is a top issue for many Texan voters who deserve, right, again, to make decisions about their body and their families. We know that young people also will vote with the freedom to leave behind a livable planet for generations to come. We talked a little bit about, climate change being a driving issue, 100% something that young voters care about. And something that they can also make an impact on, and not necessarily at the top of the ticket, but on down ballot races that are also happening, right? We have city council elections happening in Austin, a mayoral race happening in Austin.
So on our ballots this time, y'all, is everything from the president to our local tax rate, increases for childcare, the mayor, 5 city council positions, a ton of judges. It is a big ballot this year. And so since you're talking about this right now, maybe these younger ones that are coming in, they understand that we're voting for the president. They have that figured out. They're voting with what they believe in. What should they know? Like, what do young people especially need to hear when it comes to this election?
One of the things that young voters, especially if this is the first time that they're voting in an election, should know are 2 things. Number 1, your voice matters. And it matters so much that number 2, there are bad actors, both nationally and statewide, right, that are trying really, really hard to ensure that your voice is not at the ballot box. And the only way that we combat that is by 1, getting informed, getting involved, and also being able to educate others around us about the importance of the act of voting, right? I think in a state like Texas that is so hard to vote in, so hard to organize in many ways, the act of voting itself becomes an act of civil disobedience, right? And an act of discipline. Again, I want to share another pro tip. Our website, movetexas.org/vote, will also have an opportunity for you to research, right, what is on your ballot. And again, identify candidates and or ballot initiatives that most closely align with the issues that you care about. And all of this information will be there in a nonpartisan way.
So now listen, y'all. In 2020, during the last presidential election, we had 65% of registered voters voting early. There's 17.9 million Texans are registered voters. At least 900,000 of those are in Travis County. So what we're going to do is we're going to call to y'all to beat that 65% from 2020. And let's get everybody out to vote.
Oh,
to
yeah.
just vote early. Claudia, do you vote early? What are your traditions around voting early? How do you like to do it?
So plot twist, Nikki and Eva, I am actually not a citizen. I am originally from Caracas, Venezuela, was proudly raised in El Paso.
Come on, El Paso. Shout out to El Paso.
A border community that is often in the headlines for the wrong reasons that, taught me about the power of community organizing. And it was really in community about, around other young people around me as we won protections of the DACA program in the streets that I learned my own purpose as an organizer. And so I have spent the last 10 plus years, don't mean to age myself out, but the last 10 plus years dedicating my civic engagement journey to ensure that those of me around me who are eligible to vote, and especially young people, which are the most engaged, largest, most diverse, and most progressive generation in history, can actually exercise their right to vote. And it's so important to me. And I know that one day When I am able to make a plan to vote, I'm going to vote early. I am going to make sure that I have all of my, all of the information and that I've done my research, because it is a part of our civic duty. But I also know that that moment will come because of years worth of organizing in a movement that has been led by young people and young people of color particularly.
Let me tell you something. The moment you can vote, if I don't get a phone call so I can show up with a boombox and act a fool
Well, we're throwing
and play.
a party.
Listen, we're throwing a party.
Chapel Rone's invited.
And I'm going to get on my soapbox again. I did this before. I'm going to do it again. You have someone that does not have the privilege of voting in these streets, going hard to encourage you to vote and vote early and know what you're voting about. It is so inspiring. It is so it gives me this push, like, fuck yeah. Like we need to be out here. We need to be voting. We need to be voting early. We need to be making our voice heard. I am so excited about your passion, and it just speaks volumes for the type of person that you are. It's incredible.
It is. It is. And this, we recently interviewed a reporter from VoteBeat who also did not have the right to vote in America for, I think, like 10 plus years, and recently became a citizen and got to register. And she had to jump through so many hoops to make sure that she was registered. And you take it for granted. We take this right for granted to be able to just go down to the Randalls and wait in a short line is what I do, if ever, check out the flowers. and then it's done. And, so it's the most we can do is to like vote knowing that there's so many people who are fighting for this whole process to be, have integrity and for voters' voices to matter.
It doesn't matter who you vote for. Everybody's voice is important. And even if those voices are different from mine or those beliefs are different from mine, but at the very least, you should be voting.
Even for those of us who cannot vote, we are not in the shadows, right? There is a power in organizing and becoming involved and sharing your story and encouraging family members, classmates, friends, colleagues, etc., who are eligible to vote to be a part of that, to be a part of this work. My vision for this country is to have civic engagement be a celebration. And so I'm super on board for like starting to plan I registered to vote and I voted party because civic engagement should be a celebration, right? With voting dates that are transformed into community festivals where, music, art, the diverse voices of our neighborhoods are at the front and center. This is not a utopian dream. It's a vision that we can realize. And so, if you are interested, if you are inspired by this conversation, if you have questions about, voting, visit movetexas.org, reach out to us, because our theory of change is to be young, to be hot, but to never, shut up against injustice.
Well, then there you go. You should go on the website, get all the information that you need, figure out who you're going to vote for, get your plan to vote on Monday, all set and ready to go. And as a treat, you can take yourself to this cute little vintage costume yard sale that I'm about to tell you about, only after you go to the website and get all of your stuff together.
Bow, bow, bow.
Here is your Takova's Don't Go Gently segment of the week. Our Don't Go Gently tip for this weekend comes just in time for Halloween. On Sunday, head on over to Coco Coquette in East Austin for the Wig Shop's best event of the year. It's the 9th annual multi-vendor vintage costume yard sale. It's from noon to 5 p.m. The parking lot will be full of vendors with costumes, accessories, and all kinds of spooky goodies to inspire you and help get that costume complete. Plus, the store will be fully stocked with more costumes and accessories, as well as my very favorite wigs and makeup in this city. It's a great way to support Austin businesses, share sustainable costumes, and get into the holiday spirit and treat yourself after going to the website.
It is movetexas.org/vote.
There it is. It's a good treat to yourself after going there and figuring out what you're going to do with early voting on Monday. And remember, don't go gently, go into Kovas. Eva Ruth, Claudia, thank you so much for rounding up the news with me this week.
Yay.
Appreciate you all.
And hey, one more thing. During Wednesday's episode on Austin City Council races, we discussed how the elections calendar was changed in 2020 to align with presidential races. But to clarify, that change only applied to the mayoral elections. So shout out to Councilmember Mackenzie Kelly for pointing it out and letting us know. That's all for today here on CityCast Austin. Our executive producer is Eva Ruth Moravec. Our producers this week are Joyce Tang and Rishi Bajekal. And I'm your host, Nikki Devon. Our Hey Austin newsletter editor is Kelsey Bradshaw. Music is by Nelson Valente Aguilar of Como Las Movies. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, send us a message and tell us who you're going to go early vote with, and subscribe to our Hey Austin newsletter. We'll be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Bye, y'all.